and welcome to BNEWS Weekly. I'm Linda McNamee, in for Phil Gallagher. Joining me on this week's edition of BNEWS Weekly is BNews Director Rich Hosford, reporters Tad Stefanek and Robert Paris, Peter Brown with the weather, Jolie Atwood with Community Calendar, and Liz Gillespie with sports. Burlington Public Schools have reported 22 cases of COVID-19 since Monday, March 22nd. On March 23rd, they reported a case with a student or teacher in Cohort A at Burlington High School. Also on March 23rd, they reported 2 cases at Francis Wyman Elementary School, one in a 3rd grade class and one in a 4th grade class. It was determined there were no close contacts because the individuals were not in the school during the contagious period. On March 24th, they reported 1 case in an 8th grade class of Cohort B at Marshall Simons Middle School. Here too, they determined there were no close contacts as the individual was not in school during the contagious period. On March 26th, it was reported that a student or teacher in a 6th grade blue Cohort A classroom at Marshall Simons Middle School tested positive. In this case, they moved the classroom to remote learning out of an abundance of caution. On March 28th, there was a reported case in a 4th grade class at Francis Wyman Elementary. The class was moved to remote for 10 days. On that day, there was also a reported case in the kindergarten Francis Wyman after-school program. Due to this, they closed the kindergarten after-school program until Monday, April 5th. Also on March 28th, another case was reported at Burlington High School in Cohort A. Contact tracing was initiated and anybody found to be a close contact began to quarantine. On March 29th, there were 4 cases reported at the high school. Once again, the school and Board of Health began contact tracing. The same day, there was also a case reported in a 3rd grade class at Memorial Elementary School, and the classroom was moved to remote for 2 weeks. On March 30th, there was a reported case in a 4th grade class at Francis Wyman, but it was determined the individual was not in school during the infectious period. On March 31st, there was a reported case in a 2nd grade class at Memorial Elementary School, and the class was put into remote learning. On April 1st, the district reported 3 cases at Memorial Elementary and 2 cases at Francis Wyman. Contact tracing was initiated in all cases. Finally, on April 2nd, there was another positive case reported at Memorial Elementary. In all cases of positive tests, the Burlington Public Schools and the Board of Health will contact the parents of any student determined to be a close contact. If you do not hear from them, you can infer your student was not considered to be at risk. The group Burlington Equity Coalition held a vigil to stand against rising racism facing the Asian American and Pacific Island community on Wednesday in the wake of the Atlanta shooting and increasing reports of anti-Asian racism across the country. BNews Director Rich Hosford was there and has this report.
So when I hear about a 65-year-old woman getting beat in New York City and no one offering to help, or a grandmother in San Francisco beating away her assailant at a stick and turning away $1 million in a GoFundMe saying this issue is bigger than hers, I don't think of this stuff in terms of me. I can take it. I've heard it all. I'm fine. I think of it in terms of my mother. And if something like that were to happen to my mother, it would absolutely break me.
The Burlington Town Common was full of people Wednesday evening with the common cause of standing up against racism and supporting members of the Asian American Pacific Island community. The vigil was held in the wake of the shooting in Atlanta, Georgia that left 8 people dead, including 6 women of Asian descent, and growing reports of racism against Asian people across the country since the start of the pandemic. It was organized by the group Burlington Equity Coalition, Burlington Against Racism, and the Burlington Interfaith Clergy, who said gathering to support those suffering and face down hate is the duty of everyone.
I think it's a really good point of healing. It helps the communities feel loved and supported within their communities, and I think when things are planned, people feel noticed, and I think that's really important.
Our community has stood together on many occasions for many reasons, and This is yet another example of hate which is pervasive in our society. And unfortunately, we keep needing to stand up and shining a light on hate. And it's the only way that we're going to make any progress towards love and companionship and just coming together as one united community.
I asked Martha if she thought anti-Asian racism had been growing since the start of the pandemic, or if the rhetoric used by some leaders is just putting it more in focus.
You know, it's interesting because even in some of the, Asian communities I'm within, that debate still goes on. And I think it's a little bit of both. It's that, yes, there's more attention getting paid to these incidents, and there are more of the incidents happening. There's been lots of my friends that have experienced racism recently that haven't experienced it for years.
Organizers said that when racism happens, it is up to everyone to fight against it.
I think, as I mentioned, in my speech, it's very easy to turn a blind eye to everything that's happening around you. And I think what each one of us did, a call of action to, is that you should not stay silent, and that you should make sure that you speak up with people around you, and when others are suffering and when others are struggling around you.
Finally, those who helped put on the vigil were happy with the turnout.
I think I'll totally consider this event successful. It was so great to see all the people come here for support. I saw a lot of town residents, some teachers, students, which was really great to see, and also a member of the town governing board, which is really nice.
It was an amazing turnout today, and I'm so proud that many members of the Asian community came out to support one another, and many people who are not from the Asian community came out to stand with them. So it's really an excellent turnout despite the weather, despite the pandemic, and despite the short period of time that we had to put it together.
I thought the speakers were so good. The speeches were really, you could tell there's a lot of thought put into the speeches. People were invested heavily in sharing their stories, and I think it was great that so many people came to listen. It makes me feel good about being in Burlington.
I end my speech with a quote from the great Albert Einstein. "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing."
From the Burlington Town Common, I'm BNEWS Director Rich Halsberg.
Thank you, Rich. Last week's Board of Health meeting was the final meeting after over a decade of service for one of its members. Elizabeth Libby Walenchevitz made the decision not to run in this year's upcoming town election to stay in the seat she's had for 11 years. She was first appointed to the board in 2010 and was then elected to it a year later in 2011. Board Chair Dr. Ed Weiner said that in 2010, with an unexpected board resignation, they needed to fill an important vacancy, and they not only filled that vacancy, but they filled it with a professor of nursing with a master's of science. Here he is talking about her time on the board.
For more than 10 years, we have had, the town of Burlington has had someone with unique experience and training to serve on its Board of Health. Libby Walenchevitz has given off herself to serve this committee with grace, commitment, and professionalism. On behalf of the town, all I can say is thank you. When you look around Burlington, yes, when you look around this town and you see all the projects you reviewed, provided input, and approved, all of the health programs that you put your heart into, and all the work that you did for over a decade, you should be proud, as we are proud, that you made a difference.
Other members also praised Walenchevitz's work during her time on the board and acknowledged her many accomplishments. Dr. Wayne Saltzman pointed out that for the past 10 years, the board has been using the annual flu vaccine clinic as a training for vaccine administrators to ensure the board and the Medical Reserve Corps would be ready in case of an emergency. That effort, he said, was Walenchevitz's. Finally, for her part, a visibly emotional Walenchevitz said she enjoyed her time on the board and had learned a lot in the past 10 years. Here she is.
It's been an honor and a pleasure to do what I've done and be part of the sport. And I guess I'm going to miss it a little bit. But life goes on, and you make changes and do what you need to do. And so it is bittersweet that I say bye.
And we thank you for your service. BHS Class of 2020 graduates Keenan Wilson, Spencer Reith, and Danny Sullivan have taken their love of footwear and put it towards a new business. They opened their own establishment inside of the Natick Mall, Courtside Kicks. BNews reporter Robert Paris went to check it out and has this look.
Hey everyone, I'm BNews reporter Rob Paris, and we're here today at the Natick Mall, where BHS alumni Keenan Wilson, Spencer Reith, and Danny Sullivan have a brand new sneaker store open inside. Its name, Courtside Kicks. Let's go in and check it out. Introducing Courtside Kicks, a Burlington alumni-owned and run sneaker store.
Well, we've all been selling shoes for about since our freshman, sophomore year in high school. We graduated in 2020, the COVID year. So we have been selling shoes for about 3 to 4 years. This was selling to our friends, selling online, through Instagram, various other channels. We're selling shoes through.
COVID really gave us an opportunity when we weren't going to school. We had so much free time. It just felt like almost a waste to not be doing something more. And because we already had so much love for shoes, for reselling shoes, and it really seemed like it was the perfect opportunity to start taking it very seriously.
I feel like at first we were kind of, talking about opening a store as like a joke. It was more of like a dream to us. And we realized like how much of a reality we could really make it if we kind of just worked together and put all of our experience together and then here we are now.
The owners looked all around the Commonwealth to decide where to start their business.
I guess the earliest stage was, back in October when we were throwing the idea around, and then we realized we probably had a real shot of making this happen. So we kind of studied the demographics of different malls in the area. We looked at, Burlington first, obviously, because we were right there. It wasn't quite right for us. We had shopped in malls all around the state, and whenever we were in Natick Mall, we would see the most Jordans, the most Yeezys, the most
product we sell.
Yes, exactly, and it just seemed right.
Courtside sells a wide variety of shoes and sneakers that are currently on the market.
So mainly Jordans and Yeezys. Occasionally there's like Air Forces, some more common Nike shoes. There's Dunks. It's really just any shoe that has sort of a following. Up to us to figure out which ones are going to be the most popular and sort of capitalize on the best-selling shoes.
Keenan, Danny, and Spencer are continuing to improve their store for everyone that steps foot into the establishment.
To us too, it's not about selling the product, but it's about selling the experience and like how the customer feels when they're in the store, and that's like most important to us.
We're hoping that with COVID vaccine and nicer weather, business only picks up. We've been very busy already, but in the coming months, hopefully even a year, we'll still be here and we'll be, selling the product and selling the experience more importantly.
I think this really is kind of only the beginning for us. This is just the first step into what we hope is a long, successful path of like, not even just shoe businesses, but just business in general. Like this is going to be a great experience for us. So we're really excited to see where this brings us.
Next time you're in Natick, make sure to check out Courtside Kicks at the Natick Mall. I've been Robert Paris for BNews.
Thank you, Robert, and congratulations, gentlemen. A reminder that those who would like to vote early or cannot make it to the polls for the town election on April 10th can vote early starting this upcoming Monday. Town Clerk Amy Warfield said early voting will take place at Grandview Farm during the week of April 5th through the 8th. Early voting will open on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and on Wednesday from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. There will also be an option for absentee voting on Friday from 8:30 a.m. to noon. During early voting, residents are asked to wear masks and socially distance from others. Only one person or family will be allowed at the booth at a time. Poll workers will wipe down voting booths and pens and other equipment between each use. Voters can also request a ballot by mail by contacting the town clerk's office and filling out an application. The Burlington town election will be held on Saturday, April 10th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the Burlington High School gymnasiums. You can find all the information you need, including our debates for competitive races and all the letters to the editor we have received, on our Election Center page at bcattv.org/bnews/bnews-election-center. In November 2020, town officials began holding informal virtual discussions on Burlington's economic recovery with an informal group called the Economic Development Liaison Team. With the success of the initial online chat, another was held on Wednesday, March 24th with the town's Economic Development Director, Town Administrator, Planning Director, and members of the Board of Selectmen, with Burlington residents also in attendance. The discourse focused on the town center, for which Burlington has received $25,000 in grant funding by the Mass Downtown Initiative to work with a consultant and launch a placemaking playbook. The placemaking playbook seeks to identify specific areas and install programs to bring people to the town center and increase the business activity. Economic Development Director Melissa Tintakalis said the town is looking at the environment to see how it can be enhanced to bring in fresh programming to promote activity for existing businesses. Pointing out that supporting small business owners is an important part of Burlington's economic recovery, Tintakalis is encouraged by the town's center's occupancy, but recognizes that foot traffic has dwindled down. Tintakalis talked about initiatives to bring more pedestrian traffic to the area. The town has been working with landscape architect Emily Inez on a plan to best organize some seasonal markets and outdoor seating in the area. The goal is to try and launch a program for summer and one for the winter. According to Tintakalis, the next step will be to form a working group to help launch those ideas. There will be a virtual public meeting with landscape architect Emily Inez and town officials on April 21st at 12 p.m. Members of the Burlington community are encouraged to attend and hear about the town center project ideas to help stimulate the Burlington economy. A high-tech 3D printing company headquartered in Burlington is looking to expand its operations. According to paperwork filed with the town's planning department, Desktop Metal, located at 63 3rd Avenue, is seeking a special permit to expand within an existing facility at 1 North Avenue. Desktop Metal Incorporated is an expanding company involved in creating three-dimensional printers, which will print in various forms of metal. Recently, they have expanded their product line to include plastics, carbon fibers, and are hoping to expand their business further with printing in wood flour. According to the application, the company is looking to use suites C and D of the facility. These printing processes will have some associated waste, including coated wood slabs, aqueous solutions, resins, and wood finishing products. Thanks to a grant from the federal government, the Burlington Public Library now has a new art program designed to both help people relax and also keep their brains active. It's called Creative Bug, and it is available for free to all Burlington Public Library cardholders. Creative Bug offers thousands of award-winning art and craft video classes taught by recognized design experts and artists. Classes include art and design, sewing, quilting, paper, knitting, crochet, food, jewelry, holiday and party items, and has a program designed for kids, among other types of art. Library Director Michael Wick told BNews the library's subscription to the service was made possible by a grant from the Federal CARES Act, which provides assistance in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The funds came to the library through the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. The idea behind the grant was expanding libraries' ability to do remote educational programming. Wick added that with many activities, either remote or with reduced capacity, it's a great time to pick up a new activity. Finally, Wick said he wanted to thank head reference desk librarian Donna Manugian for securing the funds and running the program. To learn more about the program, visit the Burlington Public Library's website. In the latest Eye on Nature, Master Gardener Peter Capola shares some ways to get your gardening going inside the house and pointers on sharpening your gardening skills. Let's check it out.
When you know it's time to plant outside is just by using this. That smell of spring are the microbes in the soil coming alive and starting to respire. They're eating the organic material in the soil, they're running around, they're exercising, and they're sweating. And that smell you get, that we call the smell of spring, is those microbes sweating. And they don't start doing that until the soil temperature is at 50 degrees. So that's your signal that you can go out and start sowing in the ground, as long as the soil is dry enough. In the meantime, if you want to do something, you can do some exercises. Here's an experiment I did with some kids, with my grandchildren. These are just pumpkins, and I sowed the seed against the outside of the glass so the kids can watch the pumpkin grow. They can watch the root coming down, the pumpkin coming up, and up close here, there's already the male flowers. And that's what happens with squash. The male flowers come out before the female flowers. So it's something to do to get you through these next 2 or 3 weeks before you can really start going crazy with gardening. The other thing you can do is take some cuttings. Now is the time your houseplants have noticed a change in sunlight. It's much more intense, and that's their signal to start growing again. So in this particular case, this is a mandevilla, and it's starting to send out sprouts. And you can take cuttings off of this plant and root them. And it's really simple to do. You wait until, and we'll see if we can find a nice one. Here's a nice one right here. See how this stem is about 5 inches long? So we can take a cutting off of this. We can actually take this and root it. When you are pruning, you always prune to a node. This is what happens when you prune incorrectly. This was the owner of this plant, who shall remain nameless, so I won't tell you my sister's name. She didn't prune it properly. She pruned it at, cutting off the flower, she pruned it right at the leaf here instead of underneath it rather than on top. So as a result, none of this grew, it all died back. Right here at the nodes is where there are growth cells that are just hanging around wondering what to do. So I'm going to cut this off here. I'm going to cut this off here. Right here is an example of where that happened. This was pruned just above the node, and this right in the middle is the new shoot coming from where the old shoot was. So if you cut below the node, if you cut here and it's still attached to the plant, this piece will die. So you off with it, because nothing's going to happen. Now right here, I could already see some growth coming up right there, and I can see some new growth right over here. I'm going to take pot, fill it up with some soil, make it soaking wet. Because it has no water, no source, and no roots to draw water, I need to keep it as moist as possible. So what I'm going to do is make a mini greenhouse. It's just cutting the bottom off a milk container. This is a cutting I took a week ago, and you can see it's already growing, even just without roots. So I'll keep it covered for another week, and then I'll take this off and keep the soil wet, and after 2 or 3 weeks, I'll start doing just a little tugging, tug, tug, tug. And when I'm tugging, the container moves. That means there are roots. So I will know that it's rooted, and then I won't need the container anymore. You can do that with geraniums. If you've brought your geranium plants in and you want to multiply them, take cuttings and do the same exact thing. Just always remember they germinate, the roots grow from the node, and new shoots grow from a node. So if you want more shoots, you cut to the outside of the node. If you're going to do roots, you have to cut to the inside. That's where the meristem cells are, and that's where they'll produce the new growth. The other thing that I do this time of the year is take out my hand tools and sharpen them. This is the time to do it. You're looking for things to do anyway, so this is the time to do it. This is a pruning shear. This is an anvil pruner in that the blade presses against the anvil, pinches the plant, the stem that you're cutting. It actually pinches it and seals it off. And this is the blade that needs to be sharpened. Go spend $1.50 at the hardware store for this little fishing hook sharpener. You just have to line it up with the angle. Some people like to push, some people like to pull, some people like to go in circles. It doesn't really matter. You just want to get it sharpened on one edge. Bypass pruner, I actually take this apart. This is a bypass pruner, and on this, the blade passes the anvil. Bypass, that's where the expression comes. It passes by the anvil. So it actually slices. You always use this on live wood. You use this on things like roses and dead wood. Now's the time to do it. Sharpening your tools is more important than wiping the tools after you use them in the garden. So now is the time to take them all apart, sharpen them, clean them, put them back together. Summarize. Don't go crazy. Don't start too early. Visit your local nurseries and supermarkets and box retailers and check their seed stock. You don't have to buy them online. And then once you get them, relax. You still have a month before you have to go crazy.
Thank you, Peter. That's some really good advice. The Red Devils continue to fight hard during the modified Fall Season 2 currently underway. For the latest action, we go to BNEWS sports reporter Liz Gillespie for this week's Sports Report.
Hey everyone, I'm Liz Gillespie for your weekly sports report. Burlington High Fall Session 2 continues to compete against the Middlesex League teams during the modified season. Girls track faced off against the Stoneham Spartans on Saturday, March 27th at the SHS. The girls lost to the Spartans 53.5 to 46.5. Boys track was there as well and finished the meet with a 94-6 win over Stoneham. Both teams will head to Wakefield Memorial High School to take on the Warriors on Saturday, April 2nd. The girls are currently 0-2 and the boys are 2-0. Girls swimming had a virtual meet against the Melrose Red Raiders on Saturday, March 27th at the North Suburban YMCA in Woburn. The Red Devils defeated the Red Raiders 98-62. The team moves to 1-2 and will virtually face the Stoneham Spartans on Saturday, April 3rd at the North Suburban YMCA. Girls volleyball had a home game against the Stoneham Spartans on Saturday, March 27th at BHS. We have some highlights.
Girls varsity volleyball had a home game against the Stoneham Spartans on Saturday, March 27th at BHS. Let's hit the court. In the first set, the Red Devils were the first to reach the set point of 25. The Spartans had 10. Now for the second, Burlington led Stoneham by 1-0. Once again, they were the first to reach the set score of 25. Stoneham only had 9. 2-0 Burlington. The Red Devils ended the game in the third with a 25-12 set victory. Final set score was 3-0 Red Devils.
The team then faced the Wakefield Warriors on Tuesday, March 30th. Let's check out those highlights from that exciting game.
Girls varsity volleyball headed to Wakefield to take on the Warriors, where at the time, both teams were undefeated. Let's check out what happened. In the first two sets, the Warriors were overpowering the Red Devils, and they took a 2-0 set lead. Third set, the momentum shifted from one side of the court to the other. Burlington came back in the third and fourth set to tie it up 2-2. A sudden death set 5 determined which team will continue their undefeated season. In the end, The Red Devils prevailed and took home the W 15-9 in the fifth.
Burlington will see Wakefield again on Saturday, April 3rd at 10:30 a.m. at BHS. This game will be live streamed on the BCAT TV Facebook page. The girls are currently 5-0. Boys football had a matchup against the Stoneham Spartans on Saturday, March 27th. We have some highlights.
Red Devil football headed to Stoneham to take on the Spartans. Although it was the home opener for Stoneham, the game was played at the Woburn Memorial High School field. In the first quarter, senior Sean Pinkham caught a touchdown pass from sophomore Nick Berglund for a score of 6-0. In the second quarter, Ryan McGilvery ran it into the end zone for Burlington, 12-0. Stoneham's only score was in the second quarter. The final in the game was 12-7 Burlington.
The Red Devils move to 1-1 and will head to Wakefield on Saturday, April 3rd. For more Red Devil action, go to the BNEWS Sports section at bcattv.org and check out our Twitter page at BNEWS Sports. And that's all for your weekly sports report. I'm Liz Gillespie, back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Liz. We go now to BNews weatherman Peter Brown for a look at this week's forecast. We'll also check out the community calendar with Jolie Atwood to see what's happening in Burlington.
Well, hello everyone. This is Peter Brown with Official Weather for the next 7 days. I know here we are heading into April. Spring is well underway. Unfortunately, though, this next 7-day period we have coming up is not going to be featuring too much in the way of real springtime warmth like we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks or so. So unfortunately for those of us who really like that nice warm early spring weather, looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer as we head into April. Now starting out our period on Friday, look at this, we're going to see temperatures way down in the lower 40s, so a real chilly feel. This is much more akin to what we would find in the middle of February. So winter is definitely back, but it looks like it's only going to really be here in earnest for one day as the weekend starts to warm up a little bit as we head into the Sunday time frame with our highs heading back up into the middle 50s. But of course, if you have to be out and about in the Burlington area at night, it's going to be pretty chilly. You still need that winter coat out there with lows down in the 30s, and maybe look at this starting out, going out into Saturday morning in the low 20s. So definitely chilly out there for this week to start. As we head into the end of the period, getting out towards next Thursday, look at this, getting into April 8th already. Hard to believe we're actually looking towards the second week of April already. And our temperatures at that time of the year should be in the mid-50s. That's pretty much where we're going to be, if maybe a couple of degrees shy of that. So a little bit cooler than average this week, but of course, the days keep getting longer and longer as we head through spring. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the Climate Prediction Center is calling for us here in the Burlington area in terms of temperatures and precipitation for the next 7 to 10 days. And again, our temperature map, this is something we haven't seen too much of in the past couple of months. It's looking like we're going to be expecting highs to be at or below average here in the Burlington area and for most of the eastern seaboard, and that's definitely going to be reflected in our 7-day forecast in a few moments. But good news is, as we head forward and look at our precipitation chances, even though we're going to have that chillier air, it's going to be drier than normal out there. So that means we won't have to worry about any snowflakes coming out of the sky if we have some chilly conditions. So let's go ahead and take a look at that 7 days of weather coming up. And again, starting out our period on Friday, temperatures very chilly for this time of the year, only in the low 40s. And with a stiff breeze out there, it probably isn't going to feel much more higher than 28 or 29 degrees out there. So bundle up if you have to be out and about on Friday. And getting into the weekend again, our temperatures start to rebound a bit, up into the low 50s on Saturday and up into the mid to upper 50s on Sunday. So a pretty nice Easter Sunday coming up for us. Not going to be really warm out there, but pleasant if you have to be out and about and traveling at all. Now, as we start out the work week again, we're going to be seeing our temperatures are going to be warming a little bit, again back up to near 60 by the time we get to the Monday time frame. So that's something that's nice to look forward to. Temperatures will be a little bit warmer out there. Then we're going to see the chance of some showers coming into the picture on Tuesday as another cold front approaches us and knocks our temperatures back down to the lower 50s again. So looks like we're going to have some cool weather to round out the weekend again. And also on Thursday, it looks like that may be pretty average for this time of the year, ahead of what might be another big rainstorm coming for next Friday. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. So everyone, get out there, enjoy the weather, and have a great week.
Jolie Atwood, and this is your community calendar. Here comes Peter Cottontail. On Saturday, April 3rd and Sunday, April 4th, Given Irwin Florist at 165 Bedford Street is having a spring open house from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Easter Bunny will be there, so bring your camera. For more information, call 781-272-2020. Come and learn how to dance. On April 6th and 7th, Arthur Murray in Burlington is having ballroom dancer Patty Contenta come in and give lessons. Pre-registration is required. Call 781-229-7070 to register and for more information. Take some time and learn some of the challenges going on in today's society. On Tuesday, April 6th at 7 p.m., the Burlington Public Library will be having a virtual event called Race and Climate Justice with Ivan Espinoza Madrigal. Pre-registration is required for the Zoom link. This event will also be live on the BPL Facebook page. For more on the program, go to burlington.org. I'm Jolie Atwood, and that was your community calendar.
Thank you, Jolie, and thank you, Peter. Another week, another photo to highlight. This week's photo is a beautiful sign that spring is here, even if winter is annoyingly hanging on some days. It was sent in by Elaine Carpenter, and it features the first crocus she has seen in her garden in the year. Even better, this crocus has had an early spring bee already hard at work spreading its pollen. Thanks for the photo, Elaine. We'd like to see your photos. They could be of your spring activities, a family trip, or just everyday moments, whatever you think is interesting and want to share. Email your photos to bcat@bcattv.org with the subject line, Photo of the Week. Well, that's it for this week's edition of BNEWS Weekly. I'm Linda McNamee. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you around town. Good night.